Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Midnight Bonus. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe, click the like button, and please leave a comment. It really does help, and guys, it definitely matters. And now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with tonight's bonus, shall we? Tonight's bonus is an interview that I appeared on a person that I really look up to. His name is Shaun Attwood. He has a YouTube channel, a couple books. He is a investigative journalist. He investigates and reports on anything from prison experiences, stories, abuse, cults, conspiracies, Bigfoot, UFO, cartel, Epstein, you name it, and he's covered it. And it really was an honor to be on his show. I've been a huge fan of his for a very long time, years actually. And for him to invite me onto his show, he's got, we're not talking 100,000 subs. Shaun has like 800,000 subs almost. He is huge, and just a investigative journalist juggernaut, I guess you'd say, and a really, really nice guy. I've interviewed him on my channel, and he has a co-host named Steven, and Steven interviewed me for Shaun's channel. So here we go.
Bigfoot to Jeff. Jeff, good evening, sir. How are you?
Steven, how are you? Nice to
I'm wonderful. Thank you very much. First, look at that wonderful piece of art there behind you for our viewers who can see. What am I looking at there?
Yeah, a subscriber painted that for me and sent it to me. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Well, please do tell. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
That's great. That's great. Slight delay, but I'm sure we'll manage to work through it. So maybe you can just take a moment, Jeff, just tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel. What does it focus on?
Well, I started out my channel on pretty much cryptid encounters, reptilian, Bigfoot, Dogman, and just like narrating encounters. And then I started to kind of get more fascinated with the whole community, and I started to see things that were happening in the community, people being attacked, a lot of just, the disappearances in national parks, this and that, and it really fascinated me. Stayed in the field of narrating and interviewing people with their encounters, but then I started to investigate these animal attacks, quote, animal attacks. There's one that just happened last year, and to me, it's a cover-up because it happened in Tennessee, in Cott County, Tennessee. And April 1st, there was a gentleman attacked, and Tony Aarons was his name. He was found pretty much dismembered on Jimtown Road. Well, at midnight, someone had spoken to him at 9:30 at night, 3 hours prior, and he was fine. So this guy miraculously gets shredded, like his soft tissue and his stomach
just
his
froze
legs,
up a little bit there,
arms.
right at the good stuff from the sounds of it. Can you hear me, Jeff? Are you back with us?
Yeah, Yeah, I can hear
Excellent.
you.
I think the last word I may have heard there was shredded. So please don't
Yeah,
keep
well,
us
this
waiting.
Tony Aaron's guy he was supposedly he lived in a homeless encampment at the end of this road called Jimtown Road, and it's a very rural area, um, and it's poor, a very poor community down there. Good people, but not a lot of money. So this guy is found. His leg is pretty much hanging off his arm. His soft stomach tissue is torn up, and he's a guy named Charles Owensby finds him and calls 911. Well, they kind of dismiss it as a dog attack. Um, even though there's no proof of any dogs, they're found on a dirt road and scuff marks, this and that. Then in July, they kind of just they do like a 2-page write-up on it in the media, and I'm like, that's weird, like there's no closure to it. So then in July, a girl named Amber Miller was attacked in the same location, literally same location, Jimtown Road. And she was found by a good Samaritan who happened to be driving down the road. There were 3 dogs that were with her. They were licking her wounds. They weren't biting her, they were licking her. And she had was brought to the hospital. She herself was torn apart, arms, legs. It was a very, very vile and grotesque attack. She ended up dying in the hospital. Well, they said that, these dogs were, but because there was DNA evidence on the dogs where the blood that they had been licking. If this good Samaritan was able to walk up and save this girl, anybody who has had dogs and have, seen dog attacks or anything, they know once a dog attacks somebody, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop biting and tearing. It's then start licking this girl. And then if this guy comes in and tries to stop it, they're going to attack him as well. Well, that didn't happen. They just kind of parted way, let the guy take the girl, put her in the truck, and bring her to the hospital. So she passes away, and then the guy named Charles Owensby is labeled the culprit of it. They pretty much slandered him. He was a black gentleman, poor, and they ended up putting a warrant out for to search evidence for his house and his ex-wife's house, which is like 5 miles down the road. They incarcerate him for a minor bit of marijuana, and in America, I mean, it was anywhere between, I think it was like less than a half an ounce of weed. So I mean, that's in America nowadays, it's nothing, that's a slap on the wrist. He shouldn't have been incarcerated. They incarcerate him, and they do a really thorough investigation on this guy. They take his dog, they dig up a dog that had been dead for like 6 months, to get DNA from a dog that had been dead during the attacks, so then they release him on $1,000 bond, and they pretty much just responsible. He's responsible. Well, there's no evidence of him being responsible. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is weird. These dogs didn't do this, obviously. And I start looking into it more and more. And then during Owensby's release, he's in his trailers, and the public, not the public, but the community, like community workers, are hassling him. And one night there was a shot at his trailer. Someone had taken and shot a gun at his trailer. Well, he called the police department and said, hey, someone just shot at my trailer, and it would have been where he was lying down. Police came and did an investigation. They said, we can't find a shell casing. And that bullet hole's old. Well, how do they know the bullet hole is old? Because they were prior, and anybody who goes to the rifle range or who is in law enforcement or anything knows that, if you're going to assassinate somebody, clean up your brass. That's what you pick up your brass. You don't leave evidence behind. So that was a big thing.
Just to interject, what comes across very clear is obviously you do not buy the official narrative of dog attacks.
No,
I think you used, many of our viewers may have noticed you used air quotes earlier when you said animal attacks. So it's clear you're very skeptical of it. You don't accept the official stories from the police. That sort of like invites the question, what do you think it is? What do you think is responsible for these sort of attacks?
I like the guest prior, I have been researching and looking into Bigfoot and a kind of offshoot of a Bigfoot. People in America have seen, and in England, called the Dogman. It's a hominid, and it's a very violent creature. Some people think that it's related to a Bigfoot. I think it possibly may be an offshoot or something entirely different. There was a subscriber of mine had taken his motorcycle down there and rode down and ended up talking to someone from that homeless encampment. And he's talking to him, and the guy said, had a decent conversation with him. And then he said, yeah, be careful on your way out. He goes, these things will come out of the woods and take you off your motorcycle. He didn't say what, but almost like insinuating, hey, there's something out in these woods that will take you off of your motorcycle. There had been large canine tracks in the dirt or dust, the first Tony Aaron's attack. And there's been multiple attacks like this throughout our country. And people have been seeing these creatures in these vicinities. And I think it is one of these creatures. I think there's multiple of them, just like I think there's multiple Bigfoot. I think that to answer a question that you had asked the previous guest, I don't think people find these things because I think they're nocturnal, and I think they travel at night, and they have a broad area that they roam. So yeah, that's what I think is going on.
That's a potential explanation. There's been a flurry of questions on this topic, people wanting to pick your brain on it. We have one from Easy E. They're asking, what do you think of the documentaries Hellier and Skinwalker's Ranch? I'm hoping that means more to you than me.
This watched In Search of Skinwalker Ranch and stuff. I think it's an amazing documentary. Navajo lore is powerful. It's an unexplainable thing. I've talked about it on my channel before. You've got people claiming that there's portals, people claiming that there's these large canine, military involvement. It's a very sacred place. A lot of Ute Native Americans were killed in that area by Navajo, and that place is a mystery. You've got a location that said UFO, cryptid, and paranormal all in one place. There's something special about it.
What is the most compelling piece of evidence you may point people towards to help convince them that these aren't regular animal attacks?
If you look at the media, JK, I think that was his name, the dark journalist or whatever, he had said that the media works for big pharma, oil, military. We get 80% of our media from that. Our news is from big bank, big pharma, oil, military, and they just kind of feed the media what they want to hear. And the media then paints a picture of what these companies, these organizations, not companies, want them to paint. So when I look at these attacks, if there's wording that's kind of off, or let's say one of these, like, so this Tony Aaron's Amber Miller attack, it's, you got two people that had died. Then they start painting the victims as losers or less than. You know, they bring up drug addiction, have victims. Why are you bringing up their past? Just because they had an addiction doesn't mean that they are any less than, you know what I mean, or deserve to be attacked. You know, the sheriff of the Cott County, Tennessee, Armando Fuentes, he had made a statement that said methamphetamine was the cause of Tony Aaron's death, and I was like, so whatever. Even if it was the dog that did it, let's say the dogs did it. The dogs smelled the meth on him and they wanted to get high off his blood or something. You know, it makes no sense. It's a lot of BS in the wording. And you know, I have interviewed probably 500 people who have claimed to have seen some sort of Bigfoot, Dogman, reptilian is something. And it's not just people, random people. Like, I've had a sheriff from Louisiana come on and say he had seen a large, like, canine run across the road. He had no idea what it was. He had to turn around and go back and look for it. But by the time he had turned around, it was gone. And it kind of messed his whole night up, you know?
So, I mean, I find it interesting what you say about the media as a whole. And I agree that it's possible and often the case that many outlets have an agenda and a bias and a sort of style and line that they toe to. So I suppose what would be stopping some sort of alternative media outlet or some independent journalists from actually exposing this, people who aren't beholden to sort of, you know, big
I don't
pharma?
think
Or
people really are aware of it. You know, either they're not aware of it or they don't care. It's not something that they want to care about. You know, it's not money. You know, the world revolves around money, and it's not a large, you know, talking about random attacks and taking the time to really look at them. You know, this is a file of all different attacks in America that don't make sense, that are like that Tony Aaron's Amber Miller. And that's hours and hours of in like researching it and then looking at the area to see if there had been any kind of strange sightings of any kind of strange creature, you know. There was something that just happened in Virginia. Tazewell County, Virginia is right next to Buchanan, and then right across the border is Mercer County, West Virginia, and they fit almost like a jigsaw. And there had been numerous accounts of people. There had been 8 deaths, 8 weird disappearances and deaths in the last 6 months. People had been, there was 3 guys that were found dead, all the same age, which was kind of weird. I was like, that's really, you know, and in any kind of field, there really isn't coincidence, I don't think. But one guy was found in a kind of one of those drainage tubes that go under the road, like a culvert, and he had disappeared. The search and rescue went and looked for him like a year ago, and ironically enough, there's his body in this with and I had actually called the Tazewell County, Virginia's police department, and I said, hey, how are you? My name is Jeff Nadolny. I'm an independent journalist. I'm just looking into this case. And it was Richard Timmy was the guy's name. And I said, I'd heard you found his body. And the sheriff said, yeah, there was 2 bodies in the culvert, da 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 da. And there was no mention of a second body in any of the media. So there's just a lot of weird business going on with the media and the government. I think they work hand in hand to keep secrets away from us, not only with this, but with UFOs, with assassinations, with a lot, and they work hand in hand together.
What do you think of a story of a beast in land between the lakes? Is that a source of pain for former residents as well?
Yeah. I'm friends with a gentleman who his name's Tim Baker. He worked for NASA back in the 70s, and he had been researching on his own, just as a hobby, Bigfoot accounts. And he grew up in like Alabama and like Muscle Shoals, so he's familiar with that kind of area. And there's a lot of speculation on that case. You've got a family of 4 that were supposedly torn up, and the media never covered it. But you've got people that third party people coming and saying, I heard this, I was friends with these people. And then people tend to add on to the stories. I believe that an attack did happen there. It's been talked about for 40 years. It happened in like 1983 or 4. No one knows the exact date. And that, I believe, is because of a cover up. I had talking to somebody who knew a park ranger there, and they had stated that, yes, the attack did happen. Mother and father and the little boy were found like 15 feet in a tree.
So I mean, this is it's interesting. It's very dark. It involves real people, real murder, real loss. And I accept you are an individual who's interested in pursuing the truth. You want to find out what has happened. I suppose on the flip side of that coin, do you ever worry about the potential distress maybe caused to the family of these victims if somebody's sort of challenging official narratives and saying there's more to this, and potentially opening old wounds for these families as well?
There was a little boy named Corey Godsey in Knott County, Kentucky. And he was 13 years old, and he was dragged up a 300 to 400 foot kind of rock side embankment, and they claimed that it was a dog. We're talking 110, 120 pound boy dragged up a cliff, which is very, there was a lot of people.
Were there any witnesses to this, or is this something they pieced together afterwards?
No, they found he had not been, they found him up on this cliffside with puncture wounds. And so a lot of channels and a lot of people had been talking about it and saying this and that. And I had kind of reached out to a person that lived in Knott County, Kentucky, and he went to school with Corey's mom and knew the dad and knew the EMT person, knew the responding police officer. And the mom was told there was, I believe, one interview with the mom on national news. And I was told that she was told to shut up and just don't talk about the case. And I interviewed this guy on my channel about the case and about how the community was. And I was concerned about the mom, this, that, and, he said, maybe I can get her to come on your channel and talk about, everything. And I was like, no, I don't want to bring anything up, but I just want her to know that nobody's forgotten about her kid, like It's almost like this little boy was attacked. The case is still an open case. It's not a closed case. And nobody talks about it anymore. Nobody's looking into it anymore. So I just want people to know that these people who are attacked with no answers are still thought about.
What is your instinct in terms of the reaction to it then? Because is there a sort of general apathy towards the ideas you have because people don't take them seriously, or do they take them seriously and they're attempting to sort of cover them up?
Well, I was my parents are the biggest skeptics in the world. They are vanilla ice cream. And my mom had said something about, what are you doing? And I was just like, well, I said, listen to this. I said, with the, and I hate to bring up the case in Tennessee, but it's the one case that has piqued my interest, and it drives me insane actually to think about it. But I said, just let's take out Bigfoot, take out Dogman, take out any kind of paranormal out of that equation, right? You've got two people that were savagely attacked and torn up in the same exact location, in a location that's kind of in a dilapidated part of town, very rural, very, isolated from the upper city part. I'm like, take all that apart and then so you take the creatures out, but don't have any mountain lion sightings. There's been very, very rare black bear sightings. A pack of wild dog, and there are no wild dog in America. A wild dog is a species of animal that lives in Africa, and the media tends to love to use wild dog attack. Well, we don't have African dogs in America, so how are they, coming here and chewing up people? But you take that out, and you're left with two people torn up, no explanation, both open cases, and a guy who Charles Owensby is not even heard of anymore. You can't even. I reached out to him on Facebook, and his Facebook thing is gone now. There's no mention of him in the news. I'd called Cott County Sheriff's Office and said, "What's going on with Charles Owensby? Last time we heard from him or anything about him in the news was September of 2021. Is he still in jail?" No, he's out of jail. What's going on with the case? We can't talk about it anymore. So I'm like, with that weirdness going on, you're telling me there's an open investigation on dog attacks? No.
Well, I mean, I noticed that you'd obviously listened to our previous guest on Bigfoot, and I suppose he has you at a disadvantage in the sense they have some footage, the Peterson film.
I've talked to people about that footage.
Well, Dub in the sorry, one of our audience members, Dub it's called Dub. He's in the chat, and he's asked, "What do you think about that Peterson film? Do you think it's genuine or not? Are you sold on it?"
Yeah, I think that footage is legit. I'm friends with a woman named Claudia Ackley, who is friends with Bob Gemlin, who took the film, and she had put me in touch with him. I'd briefly spoken to him because he's very old now. He has Alzheimer's and stuff. And I think that is probably the most 9 people claiming that they were in the suit. Where's the suit now? If that really happened, why aren't they bringing us the suit? To show us, hey, this is what was worn. I feel that is really compelling evidence that there are creatures out there that we don't see very often. I agreed with his lava tube thing. Another thing is with you, I think you had said trees. There was a gentleman. I live in the Adirondacks in New York, so it's a very huge. It's one of the biggest state parks in our country. And there was a guy named Tom Mezek who disappeared. He was a hunter. And it's a very strange case. FBI came and was involved in the search and stuff like that. FBI doesn't get involved in cases like that unless state lines were crossed or tender-aged youth. This guy was 82. I believe that he was looking for things. When you're looking for a missing person, you're looking for evidence on the ground. You're not looking up. And I believe that these creatures use the trees to their advantage.
This is excellent. It sounds like something that may one day be perfect fodder for a quality horror movie. But Jeff, I appreciate you coming on and speaking to us. Is there anything you'd like to point people towards before I let you get back to what's left of your afternoon? Where can they find more of your content?
My channel is called Dogman Encounters with Jeffrey Nadolny, and I've narrated 3 audiobooks. They were written by Tom Lyons, who has investigated these attacks and encounters, called Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1, 2, and 3, and they are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes.
That's excellent, Jeff. Thank you very much for your time, and all the best with your investigations.
Stephen, thank you. It was great meeting you, and have a wonderful.
You too. Thank you.